Wagwan, how you there? What's good? And you know who this is, baby. The number one podcast in America, dedicated to all you kings and queens of color, homies and homettes, shotters, woo gals, G-boys, and charges. The one and only Jerk Jollof and Collard Greens podcast.
All right, what's good? Welcome back to episode 14 of the Jerk Jollof and Collard Greens podcast. I'm your host, Chunky, and today's panel discussion will be centered on being a man.
Oh, yeah.
Today, we're going to take a look into what components and experiences make a man. Enjoy as we lift up our experiences, drive past our challenges, shoot through our mistakes. So let's man up and do this.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready, bro.
Oh, yeah.
I like
Cool.
the energy, Chunk.
That masculine energy, I feel it.
All day, all day.
100% man.
Before we delve any further, if you're already a follower or would like to learn more about the show, major announcements, and stay up to date on our latest offerings, then definitely check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at JJC Podcast for information and content updates. As always, we about to do this roll call. Up first, we got I can squat a whole ass Tesla, D-Ron.
Yo, I already knew he was talking about me because I be in the gym lifting the world, bro.
Man, I need to get in the gym with you, cuz.
Bro, man.
Next up, we got the man that can out dribble a dolphin. Please don't ask any questions. Francis.
What's good? I didn't want to.
I'll dribble
I'll
a
dribble a
dolphin,
dolphin.
bro. Ankle breaking dolphins, bro.
Flipper, watch out. Mr. I can dunk on a giraffe. Dre.
I will do it. Peter, don't come for me. I'm sorry.
And that guy that can run further than Forrest Gump. Your man, G Ransom.
Yo, Wagwan, out there. What's good? It's your boy G Ransom. You know, I got the goods like a Tasty Cake truck. And, you know, I just got to say, it's a little strange sitting on the panel, but I understand you guys needed a man to discuss man stuff. So I'm here.
I mean,
Oh,
you're
boy.
Oh, wow.
And you already gave him the stamina shout out, too. So
Exactly. You already know. But yeah, definitely you can find me on Instagram at G_ransom. That ends with an E. What's this?
Uh-oh. Mad DMs now.
I know, right?
Cool. All right.
What that waistline do?
This episode of Rep Yours is dedicated to Savior Creole, a small, intimate dine-in and takeout restaurant serving authentic Haitian food located in Montclair, New Jersey. You can find more out at Savior Creole at SAVEURCREOLERESTAURANT.com.
Nah, I just got to say for the record, because it's in my home state, it's Saveur Creole.
Yeah.
I do partake. If you love that tassel, man, if you like that plantain, man, if you like that black rice, they got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Sac passe.
man. Okay.
Shout out to all my Haitians.
Nabule.
Okay. I will take that one in stride. All right, so let's hop into it. Of course, the immediate question is going to be, what is your definition of a man? And I'm going to throw that at King Selassie himself because he doesn't get any practice being on the panel. So if I hit him early, maybe he'll fumble.
All right, so let's go, because as y'all know, like Forrest Gump, I'm always prepared. You know what I mean? So I bet. Here's my take on what it means to be a man. You know what I mean? And get to that cultural piece too. So first thing to being a man is biological. Let's go. I mean, you got to have the parts. You know what I mean? And then that's why you see when a lot of people try to transition, the first thing they try to emulate is the appearance of a man and, you know, that functioning unit, whatever you want to call it, in between the legs.
Okay.
First part. Second piece, the male psyche. I just have a firm belief that men are comprised of three things. That's aggression, the capacity for violence, and ambition. And I think those three components are what essentially make a man. Now, in this world, you have good men and bad men. Whether or not cultural perceptions or culture affects that, I don't think so. I think it's all uniform. It's just, you know, basically there's good men and bad men in this world. And you know, that's my take.
Cool.
Bad boy.
Do you think your culture has an influence of your perception of how a man is? Or what makes a man?
Yeah, I don't think so. Because like I said, I think it's all uniform. I mean, there could be like different connotations. There could be like different beliefs. But that, like, for instance, you have some men that think, in Jamaica as an example, that you got to have like 5 baby moms. You know what I mean? That was what makes you a man, if you have kids from different women. And reality, I think that makes you a bad man, because essentially, you know, if you can't support all those children, if you can't, you know, show your commitment, if you can't, you know, uphold your responsibilities, you're not doing your thing as a man.
So is it a bad man or bad man?
Batman.
Well, bad man, because a bad man
What
is a
you
shatter.
gonna
You know what I
do?
mean?
What
A
you
bad man
gonna
is a
do?
shatter. Boop, 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 boop.
Oh man. So the same question at Dre.
I agree with a lot of what Glenn said, minus the physical. I don't think necessarily the physical. I don't think the anatomy is necessarily what makes a man. You know, you could lose those things. You cannot be born with those things. So I actually don't believe that the genitalia is what maybe identifies what a man is. But I think some of the other core pieces of what Glenn said, I agree with. I think being a provider, being a protector, not saying these things are necessarily exclusive to only men, because there are women who have to do those things. But I think, I think one of the job of men is to be protectors, to be providers. I think those are some of the few pillars of being a man, which I'm sure we'll get into.
Francis?
Yeah, so I mean, I definitely echo the same thing, you know, Glenn and Dre already stated. So, I mean, I do think, you know, traditionally men, you know, I'm very traditional in some aspects. So I definitely, you know, side with Glenn in that statement. So, but I share the same thing. I think men are considered providers, protectors. You know, there's a level of integrity that you have to, you know, they have to carry as a man, you know, and the goal is to help raise other men to follow. So I'll just kind of leave it at that.
G-Black, anything to add? Anything to take away?
No, I mean, I think I agree with the biological piece. Yeah, the psychological piece. I mean, it's funny because we have all these like social stereotypes of what we think, you know, a person should be, and, you know, gender roles and all those type of things. But I feel like, you know, every day we're constantly challenging that and pushing the envelope. But for me, I mean, I don't know. It's like, I feel like I'm always even kind of questioning like what a man is for myself, you know, because I feel like, you know, my father, you know, his father, like they all had like an ideology, you know, what a man should be, just masculine and domineering and sit down and this, that. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just not that person. Like everybody knows I'm just pretty chill, laid back, and kind of like whatever. You know? So I mean, it's a very interesting conversation I'm trying to get into right now.
Yeah, every man is different. Every man has their own thing. That doesn't take away from their level of masculinity, and everyone has their opinion about how a man should be. With that being said, let's look at becoming a man and the sense of going through the rites of passage to get there. Do you believe that in order to become a man, you have to pass through the rites of passage in order to earn that title? If you haven't seen challenges, if you haven't been through anything, you really aren't a man when you're faced with a high level of adversity. And I'm going to throw this back to Glenn because I want to see him try to stumble on this one because, like I said, he hasn't had too much practice being on the panel.
Now, I think the idea of a rites of passage is a dated concept and to reflect a rather dated era. Now, not that I don't believe that they exist, but there's no like formal, you know, event that says, hey, guess what? You're 10. Guess what you got to do? You got to go through the jungle and, you know, survive and see how you make it. Like, I mean, I think life is an everyday grind already. So I essentially, to wake up another day is your rites of passage. So it's just like, I don't think there is a formal concept. There is no ceremony to commemorate that. I know a lot of people try to attribute like material wealth or certain assets to say, hey, you're a man now. But nah, it's all mental. You know what I mean? It's all like kind of encompassing your responsibilities, upholding your word, things like that, in my opinion, make you a man. So once you're able to do that, you know, there's no need to go through a rites of passage. Every day you're living, you're going to have to prove that. So,
but here's my thing to that though, because I feel like then people, because there is no like, okay, just to count what you said. So there's no like general rites of passage. So that means it's kind of like a pass go type situation. Like everyone basically has the ability to deem themselves, a man, and you use your own kind of qualifiers for that. Now, if I put my qualifiers on other people, I'm gonna be honest. I feel like there's a lot of people that call themselves a man or call themselves men, but then they fall short. Like for instance, Black community, like when people, sometimes men don't care for their young and or step up to the responsibilities of being a father or being a husband or being whatever, but then they still walk around, gold chains, bling bling, got the whips, and then they're like, I'm a man. I don't know if everybody's seen that little skit where there was like not skit, there was like a meme or something where some little kid where he was yelling at his mom like, I'm the man, I'm the daddy,
Yeah.
I'm the
I'm
daddy,
grown.
I'm grown, I'm grown, because he's emulating another man that's that's probably another male in his life where he's learning that from. But where was that man in that whole situation? There was multiple videos of that kid.
I mean,
You know what I mean?
so
Yeah.
let's take that into consideration, right? I don't think any man should have to establish that he's a man with another man. That should be a given when you walk into a room.
Mm.
If I'm a
Touche.
man, I don't have to tell you, like, oh, I'm an alpha male. I know what I'm doing.
That's a problem.
As a
Yeah.
man, my actions speak for themselves. My decisions tell you who I am. And I understand what Selassie's saying, that waking up every day in life is a rite of passage. But to me, I believe that when you're faced with a big challenge in your life, and I can't tell you what your challenge is, and you have to make a really hard decision. And it's not a hard decision like, am I going to play, FIFA? Am I going to play COD today? A hard decision where it's going to affect you 5 years down the line. That something hit you so hard that you never experienced before, and you have to say, I have to mature a lot quicker than need be. This is the turning point. And that's different for every man. And I posed a question to Dre, has there been a point in your life where you had to immediately grow up? Just like when you're drunk and you see the cops, you're like, I need to sober up real quick.
Yeah.
A point in your life where you're just like, bam, like today's the day.
Well, can we back
Yeah.
up on that one real quick though? Because my thing is like, not everyone goes through adversity in their life. So are they less than a man? Because
That's
some people may grow up in privileged beginnings where they don't have to go through struggles that other people go through. So
But-
now we're comparing, okay, you went through this, I went through that. I'm more of a man than you because I went through it.
no. So what
I
I'm
could have
saying,
avoided it. And
everything is like I said, everyone has their own level of adversity.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that my adversity has to be your adversity and that's what makes you a man. Your adversity is going to be different. Your challenge is going to be different. So what makes you grow into a man is not the same instance as me. So I'm not saying that you have to do this in order for me to consider you a man. Like I said before, you step in the room, another man will recognize a man no matter what they've been through because of how they carry themselves. So Dre, go ahead.
Yeah, so a moment for me, and I guess I think I was in college. It's been past the statute of limitations, so hopefully my wife's not listening. But
She is.
it's happened when I was in college. I was dating this woman, and basically we broke up. I probably didn't break up with her the right way because looking back on it, I think I kind of made her think that maybe more was there. But basically, in short, something happened. She tried to show up to my apartment. She saw that there was another woman there that I was entertaining. She was very upset. She called me on the phone. She called me on the phone and told me she was going to kill herself.
Oh my God.
And that was like a moment where I was like, I don't know what to do. But in my head, I was like, you have to deal with this. You can't call your mom or you can't call your dad or you can't. So I called the police, right? I basically was like, look, I don't know if she's going to do it, but she said she was going to do it. Trigger warning. Sorry. Also, if anyone's gone through that. So not making light of the situation, but I'm more just speaking from the perspective that I was in. So basically called the police. They went to her house. They found out that she was fine. And basically the police officers really kind of treated me like trash. They were like, what did you say to her to make her do that and all that other stuff? And that was like the one moment where I was away from school. It wasn't like my parents could just pop up. So that was like the first moment that I had where I had to like, quote unquote, be a man, right? I had to figure it out, right? I had to make decisions. I had to, make a decision to call the police, right? Or not call the police or speak to the police officer and explain to what happened, so that was like probably like one of the first moments where I was like, oh shit, I don't know if I necessarily thought that I was a man. Maybe I was just like, I'm an adult now. And I know, I think for me, sometimes like adult and man kind of are somewhat fluid words, right? With some of these things, some of these initial ideas, that was probably more being an adult than necessarily being a quote unquote man. But some people could say that, right? I did the right thing. I did what I thought was right. That's what men should do, right? And being a protector, right? I thought I was protecting her, even though we were not together anymore. So that was probably the moment for me that I could, that I was like, okay, I can't let this situation get to a point where I just have to call my mom or my dad. Like, I got to figure this out, right? Like, there's no one who's going to help me. I got to see my way through this. So,
and that's a really good point too that you just made, because it's like you're dealing with real life issues and you have no fallback. Like, there's no one that's going to bail you out. There's no one that's going to, I mean, mind you, we got family and everything, but at the end of the day, you know, you get held accountable for all those things at 100%. So even being being a man, I guess when you can be tried as a man, you know, as an adult.
Hunger Games.
Nah, but like, you know, because, you know, like, you know, as a juvenile, you're no longer a juvenile. So you're adult, you're a man, you can live on your own. What's it called when in school when you could sign that paper that you could take yourself out of school? I forgot what that thing is called. Like, it's Emancipation Proclamation. Nah, I'm playing.
Oh.
Yeah, you can leave the guardianship of your parents.
Yeah, there's like a release form. Yeah, you could sign.
That's an emancipation form for like.
Okay, so I was right. It's good. Emancipation form. Yeah, you could sign, and that deems you as an adult. So whether you can leave school and what, you know, so.
Well, I think that means you could leave the custody of like your parents. Like, you can be considered an adult at that point. Like,
and then you could decide whether to go to school or not. And nobody's calling your parents whether you skip school. You know, I think ultimately, like, everybody wants to be a man, but nobody really has a full, idea of what that truly means until it gets real. It just means you ultimately responsible for your own mess ups. Nobody got your back. They're bailing you out.
Yeah. So being that you got the floor, what was the situation that you went through that made you realize that you either had to transition from juvenile to adulthood and have that fluid, which I like what Dre said, like that being a man and being an adult, and like where was that shift in your life and when did that happen?
I think so. Well, I guess with my parents and with my upbringing, like I was always brought up to be like the man of the house. I mean, I had my dad, you know, he was around, but you know, he always kind of instilled, you know, like you have to be able to like look out, be accountable for other people, you know, like be accountable for your sisters, be accountable for your mom, you know, if I'm not around, like all those things like that. But I guess I never really held value in it until like, you know, some crazy junk went down or like somebody's life was threatened and like I couldn't call my dad, or like I had to make a decision about my own life or like what career paths I want to do, and you know, do I want to pursue football or not? Like that's when you start realizing like, oh crap, this is real. This is me. This is my life and I can mess it up. You know? Yeah. So
Francis?
Yeah, I was just trying to think of examples. I have a couple, you know, like in the African community, I think you have to kind of grow up a little quicker. Especially for me, you know, when I was in high school, there was a lot put on me to, you know, to kind of be a dad at home to my younger siblings, you know, so as far as, you know, being accountable for them and, you know, taking that role when, you know, when the parents go to work and you kind of have to stay back and kind of own the home and be the man. Somebody knock on the door, you actually open the door and be like, what's up? What you want?
Okay.
It's my house. But like that was, you know, one of those moments. But I think the biggest, I guess, obstacle that I had, and it kind of tied back to my family as well, was after my first year in college, you know, I was, you know, like I kind of talked about before, my parents want you to get an A. Maybe you can be okay with a B, but anything lower is just like a no-go, you know, but it's always B plus or, you know, but like, so my GPA after my first year kind of fell to like 2.85 and my parents wanted my butt back home. So like after my first year and I did my first, so I did 3 semesters now and my parents told me I need to move back home. So I canceled my dorm and all of this stuff. And that moment I realized, okay, I need to actually step up and make a decision about my life here, you know? And in that moment, and I feel like I had to kind of step up to the plate. And, my parents and I had to have a conversation and, and let them know, like, okay, I'm really serious. I'm real about this. Give me another shot. And, in that moment, I kind of step up and I kind of was able to kind of leave a second. Well, they finally let me go back because I had to like fight for it. And that's kind of where that adult, phase kind of, I felt like became like prevalent in my life. And ever since I was able to kind of, I guess, live up to the expectation because I never,
Well,
you
I have a
know,
question on that
yeah,
because that sounds a little bit more like adulthood. Because the way I look at it is that basically all men are men, but not all men are adults. Because and that kind of goes back to my definition of that there are actually bad men in this world that don't uphold their responsibilities.
right.
So isn't that more like women could go through the same exact experience? Isn't that more of an adulthood phase and then it's like a man defining moment?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with that. It is a adulthood transition. So from like being a big boy where I was kind of, staying at home, taking care of the kids, then I kind of went through that personal experience where I had to like kind of step up to the plate, like, hey, now let me become an adult and make some decision for myself and let me show you what I got. Then that's where when actually the action of becoming what I was being an adult, I became a man during that phase as well. That's kind of how I felt like that whole transition went.
I don't think they're separate things. I
They
mean, I
are.
know it,
Yeah. Well, I guess in the sense that you have some men that are childish, so they don't act like adults, but by respect. Okay, that's just based on my definition, having the anatomy and then the psyche. You're still a man, but you're just probably a very childish man or not an adult. So
But
you think there's any separation between the two?
No,
wait,
but-
a challenge that I have for you about the anatomy part is if you're born without a penis and testicles, can you not be a man?
No, not without penis and testicles, no.
So if you have an accident where you lose those things, are you still a man?
Well, you lose them, but you were born with them, so you're still a man.
But does the physical thing make you a man?
Yes, it does.
Because
make
see,
you a
your
man.
argument-
However, if you're
Yeah.
born with them, yes, you are a man. Whether you lose them by an accident, you lost them. You know what I mean? You lost them. Unfortunately, they don't grow back, so you can't reclaim them. However, you were
Yeah.
born with them, so yes, you are a man.
Okay, so Dre, I think you're going into the sense of like, okay, how not just the biological piece, but like how people identify themselves as, right?
Exactly. I feel like that's
So you
kinda
have the
what I'm
ability
Yeah.
to identify yourself as a man, and then, but I think then to Selasi's point, but then it's not. Is it just completing the process when you kind of go and get the changes and then the medication and all that?
Yeah, in my opinion, if you have one, so like I guess if you were born a woman and you change your appearance, biologically you were born a woman. So in my definition, no, you cannot be considered a man. You may identify as that, and that's up to you. No hate on the transitioning crowd, but biologically you were not born a man.
Yeah, I guess it's my whole thing is like I never decided to be a man. I never decided to like women. So to me like the whole biological thing is like I know it's probably another podcast. I don't want to derail too much, but I just never made a decision to be a man, right? Like it, like I didn't wake up, I wasn't a boy and was like, I feel like a boy. Like I didn't make the decision to be, I guess, what I felt, right?
Mm-hmm. So that
So
means
I
you'd
just
be
wanna
aligning with the biological side then, because then you didn't choose it. You woke up and
Yeah,
I mean,
none
you
of
were
us did.
born. Yeah, this is
Yeah.
ultimately how life played out for you.
Yeah. But
That's
I'm just
interesting.
saying with that thinking, I could easily see how someone could feel the same way, not with the anatomy.
Yeah. So my thing is like, no, the next real question is that is being a man a mindset? And if you think like a man, are you a man? If you handle responsibilities of a man, are you a man? To me personally, you don't have to have the biological components to be considered a man. If you do a gender reassignment, cool. I mean, that's who you are, and I accept that. If you're handling quote unquote masculine tasks, that's not like squatting a Tesla or dunking on a giraffe. That's just like what we assume to be those male traditional roles. Then you're able to claim that title and you're able to defend that title. to me, I don't look at it as you have to biologically be born a man. It's like how you decide to identify with yourself. That's who you are. Now, can you uphold that identity? Then that's the next component, which I think we should save for like another episode, because this is a whole different topic of itself. So with that, I want to ask, who taught you how to be a man? And is there more value placed on that person's gender who taught you? So I'm gonna start off with Dre.
I would say, I guess if I'm putting in percentages, probably 80% my father, obviously, who was, very involved in my life. Obviously, my parents got divorced, but I ultimately went to go live with my father for a couple of reasons. But I think it was really important for that moment in my life. I think I was like in the middle of high school when he moved out of state, so I went to go live with him. So I would say for the most part, the overwhelming majority is probably specifically things he's taught me. I think I've also learned from him in the opposite as well, right? Maybe not handling things a certain way, right? Maybe even questioning, maybe not questioning his manhood, right? Because I know that's but in some ways questioning some of the decisions he made, right? And then me saying like, I would never do that if I was in that situation, right? I would never do blah blah blah. I won't say it. So I would say probably for the most part, probably my father. I think for the most part, a lot of them have been like personal examples, right? I have a really close uncle I'm close with. I had like an older brother, who was like mentored by my father, and I kind of looked up to him, right? He was kind of closer to my age, right? Kind of taught me how to dress, told me what music I should be listening to, right? Because my dad wasn't really telling me, right? My dad was trying to have me wear suits to school, right? Because because that was cool when he was in school, right? When he was in school, it was cool to wear suits. But in fifth grade, I'm not like, no one's gonna think that, oh, DeAndre is dressing cool because he's wearing a suit. Like what is that nerd?
He's
doing?
a nerd.
What is this nerd doing wearing a 3-piece suit
with a briefcase
to school? Yeah. And that also, that's funny you say that. Briefcases were cool as well. That I learned from my dad. Bringing a briefcase to school, that was like your backpack. That was cool during his era. So I would say probably the majority have been from examples of people in my life. I would say that I've probably also, from afar, read about, people and, maybe help them, some of their ideas or books or speeches or things like that have probably also shaped what I believe man is. And then I think a lot of this also is just like being an adult is like, there is no book to this stuff, right? There's no book to how to live your life, right? Everyone's going to have like their own experiences, but at the end of the day, like you're going to need to learn this stuff. So I think also a small percentage is just like, I'm still going to be learning these things, right? It's not like it's not like I've crossed the thing and I'm a man now and I don't have to keep on evolving and getting better. So
that makes sense. I agree with that. Francis?
Yeah. So I think, like growing up in Nigeria, I think that the concept that, like the village raised a child is really true back home, so because we have, neighbors, even uncles, family members who are constantly around, and those are the people who kind of help raise you. So when I came to the state, I would say, the larger percentage of it I put on my dad. He's a great man. He's a great role model for me. I learned a lot from him, but there's also a lot of things that I had to learn outside because he also was not exposed to some of those stuff because he was, kind of transitioned to a new country and integrate into the culture. So there's some stuff that we were all learning at the same time, and they were kind of adjusting as well. So I think, I would say a good amount of it was I learned from my dad, and there was other people like in the community, church and family, friends and stuff like that. And even your peers, so like that, I would say that I learned a lot of that stuff from. And to answer the gender part, I think the gender part is really important. I mean, not to take away from the super moms out there who are raising amazing men and good citizen in our community nowadays, but I do think there's a importance to I think in that situation, I think, there are importance to role models, like for myself, I kind of use examples where, I was able to learn outside of, outside from other males, outside of my family. But I do think the gender does matter, because reinforcement matters, and you see what you practice. So I think on kids, we emulate what we see. And when we see men who are doing good things and kind of showing us good path and setting good examples for us, we tend to kind of follow that in most scenarios, I would say. So
So you're telling me that a woman can't teach the same thing?
well, I'm not saying they cannot. I think there are some outliers out there, but
I think so. I
yeah,
don't think
for
it's possible.
You don't think
Um,
it's possible for
That's
a
not
woman?
my turn. I don't think a woman can teach a boy to be a man. No.
No, I would love to hear it.
yeah. So, well, just to kind of finish up what I'm saying. So I think there are outliers out there. I think it could, because I mean, if a mom, if they are good, you can have step dads, a man figure in the home as well. It may not be your actual dad. You may have uncles who are constantly around. So in those scenarios, I think, you do have male figures around, or, sometimes the mom, if they know there's no male figures, they have community leaders that they can, like, hey, watch over my son. And those become the role model for the kid. So like in those situations, I think the man, even though the mom is the core leader in the home, I think she knows that, my son still needs a male
Still needs a man.
example in his life. So she makes sure she have people around to show him the good path for the most part. So that's kind of how I see it. I do think the gender does matter in majority of the time.
Glenn, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess to answer the first part of it before I get into that piece, yeah, I think we all subconsciously have a lot of like male examples I've had, like from my dad. People, I can name some people directly, like Basil Service, Sergeant Service. My time in JRTC, he instilled a lot of keys in me, and just men overall that I've experienced, like in my life and at work. Subconsciously, consciously, they kind of show us things that we do and don't want to emulate in a way. And I think, even the media plays a part in some of those images as well, but it's ultimately up to us to decide what kind of man we want to be. So, and I guess to get to the next piece, as far as I think women cannot teach a boy how to be a man, in the sense, I'm not knocking the women out there that are single moms. My girlfriend, is one of them as an example. They're definitely doing what they can to raise adults. But I feel like because men are visual creatures, our examples of manhood and masculinity are going to be other men.
Other men, yeah.
So essentially, we're going to look to them to make that decision, like, okay, this is how I should be, this is how I should act. This is probably the example I should follow, which I think is another reason why we should elevate men a lot more too, especially the good ones that are doing good. So men that, young boys that don't have fathers can grow up in these environments where they at least have role models. Because I mean, I can even read off some stats. I think it was like 1 in 4 fathers are apart from their families. Children without dad are usually more depressed, have a higher rate of incarceration, usually are in poverty. Teen pregnancies are more abundant, and like 71% of high school dropouts were fatherless. So it's like there's a good amount of resource in having that example. I feel like women can do a lot to help steer their children the right way, steer the boy the right way, but he's going to look for a man for that example. Yeah. And it's important that he has a good example to follow.
So I would disagree. And my personal example, my mom raised me and my brother, and she told us what it was like to be men. And it's not a knock on my father. The marriage situation was what it was. They were divorced, so we had to deal with what we had to deal with, and what they were dealing with. It's beyond my comprehension as a child. And she did a lot of different things. And she pretty much taught me how to be a man, in the sense that the things that women like and what they go for, the qualities that are needed in order to attract a woman, the qualities that are needed in order to be a good companion. She enrolled me in football. She made sure I did the masculine things. I was in martial arts. There wasn't a thing that she didn't try to do to show me how to be a man. And she also taught me how to play an instrument. So there's a lot of different things that she did. And there are single mothers out there that do raise actual men, and they teach them how to respond to situations a lot better. They teach them that emotional component that some boys don't get, that it's okay to be emotional. It's okay to understand your feelings. It's okay to speak about what you're going through. So, in my opinion, and I don't take away from you because you have very valid points, women can raise men. And it doesn't make a difference who raises the boy to a man. I don't place a certain value on that. As long as they're teaching them the right qualities and components, that's the more important aspect. In today's society, you may have two moms that adopt a son, and those are his role models. And they're going to teach him how to be somebody. And the thing that's awesome about men, we all are different on this podcast itself. I have a different approach to shit, and I will punch a hole through a wall.
Mhm.
Someone may find a window, some one of us may walk through the door. But that's what makes us who we are by the diverse backgrounds that we come from, whether it's culturally, whether it's the gender that has raised us, whether it's a nuclear household with two daddies or two mommies. So to me, females can raise a boy to be a man, and that's hands down. That's not taken away from any fathers or any men. I think both sides are important.
Chunk, I have a question for you.
Mhm.
So do you think, sorry, cause, did you think you had any role models though, even though because you play football and she enrolled you in a lot of community stuff, did you think you were able to kind of latch on to, did anybody play a role model for you as a male? I guess
No.
I just say it like that.
And it's not to like be adverse to what's being said. She was my role model because seeing her deal with just me, like seeing her deal with two boys that literally me and my brother physically fought, and to have a woman come in between that, and literally she has punched my brother, and that scared the shit out of me. She had to show a level of dominance, and she was in control of the room. There was no fear in her heart when she approached certain situations, and to me that was inspiring because I didn't see that from a male yet. I saw that from her. There were times where people would pick on me or parents would say something to me, and she stepped up willing to whoop their ass. So that's like another component to it. So which goes back to about that man mind frame, right? She came up and she did what she had to do to show and establish dominance, to show a masculine role even though she's a woman.
So is it safe to really like, I mean, a lot of mothers, that's a part of them. They're going to protect their child. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't say that's a masculine trait. That's just being a responsible parent. You know what I mean? Especially if you care for your seed. So is it fair to really say, okay, they're all women are doing now is emulating what men do?
I never said that.
But you're saying that you're saying in the sense that she was a man in a sense because she protected you.
No, that's not what I said. She stepped into that role of that masculine trait at that moment when it needed to be there. She didn't run from things. She approached it head on and she handled the task, which if we backtrack a little bit, that's where we talked about adulthood, right? So understanding adulthood can be both man and woman or whatever gender you want to be. So that's what I'm saying. That there's nothing that I'm saying that like is similar to the question that you asked.
Yeah, I think the other thing I guess I'll add is I think sometimes we have to draw this like very black or white stance, and I think there's probably multiple ways to become a man. I think to Glenn's point, I agree that yes, more than likely the statistics say that if a man is in the household, right, then some of these things will, you know, there are all these other metrics that go up, right? You know, likely to go to college, all those things. Yes, that's true. But I think there's multiple ways to my earlier point, there's multiple ways that one can learn to be a man, right? Specifically by interacting with a man, specifically, you know, their father or someone like that, or close father figure. But I think there's also other ways that people can learn. There's people who don't grow up with men in their household who ultimately become men, right? Now, whether you want to attribute it to the mom, some of it to the mom or society or books or other people in their lives, you could do that. But I just think that there's multiple ways to learn how to be a man. And I think there are some things that a woman can do, and she's teaching you from one perspective, but there's also, you know, I'm not going to say that there's not a different way for my father saying something to me than my mother. They could literally be saying the exact same phrase And I could be, it could potentially hit me harder coming from my father, right? For whatever reason. So I think there is, I think we should also just keep in mind is that there isn't just one way. So if you don't grow up with a father, no one is saying here, and I could say this for a fact, no one is saying you can't be a man if you didn't grow up with a father, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, just to clear that up, if that is coming across that way, I think what a lot of young boys will do will look to other men for that example, which is why I also said it's important to elevate the men that are doing positive things. Because for instance, if there was a single mom listening to the shows, she's in a conundrum and she's concerned, like, what am I going to do for my son? It's easy, find other examples that they can look at and bring that up, raise that awareness to them. It is plenty, especially for Black boys in particular. There's plenty of Black men doing things out here on the right route that you can use as examples.
Yeah, D-Black, you want to say something?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, you guys are making very good points. And then the one thing I was just gonna say is like, and I know it's a sensitive topic for you, Chunks, and not trying to take anything away, there. But ultimately, I feel like as women raising men, you can raise men. Nobody says you can't raise them. But to teach a man to be a man, you ultimately will need a man, whether it's directly or vicariously, whether because ultimately through books, through putting you in football with other men, putting you around other men, putting you in manly, air quote, manly activities, those things is what she was like, okay, this is my mindset, this is where men gather, this is where men do manly things. They'll ultimately pick those things up. But so again, not saying that you can't that mothers can't raise men, but you can't teach someone who's not a man. Well, I mean, someone who's not a man can't teach a man to be a man, because it's going to be from the perspective of a woman, and I think that's the one thing is like, this is how I perceive men. This is how I perceive that a man should be. And, ultimately, there may be some misinterpretations there. There may be some misses there. It won't necessarily come out. If you get my point, it won't be clearly from a man.
No, I hear you.
And then one more thing, sorry. And then also on that note, we take all men into account, not just the men that give us positive feedback. Like if you don't have a male figure in your life, you are also learning from that man that, this is a male figure that should have been in my life and he's not in my life. So I'm learning to either be more like him from afar or not to be like him, because every man, we're also really making a discernment whether I want to be like that or I don't want to be like that. I want to attribute those actions or I don't want to attribute those activities. But every single man we learn from, every single man, even from other men that we speak to, we learn from each other. So
I mean, it could go either way. I still stand on my stance. I don't want to be a dead horse. And that's my definitive part on this. And this just got way too serious for me, so I'm about to break this shit the fuck up. So as men, do any one of y'all still possess some childlike quality? Something that, like, as a kid, you're just like, I gotta have this. Me, I'll be like straight up with it. I love watching cartoons. Like every time I go over to D-Black's house, he knew the routine. He would throw on Chowder, he'll give me a bowl of cereal, and I'll be quiet for a full ass hour and just sit there and watch it and enjoy it. And I think that's, to me, important to be able to, decompress in that aspect. So for Francis, do you have any childlike tendencies? That's not negative, but it's more so a decompression.
Bro, I mean, I'm right there with you, man. I love Dragon Ball Z, bro. Yo, they just a new movie is coming out next year. I'm up to date. I actually watch YouTube videos on. I'm up to date on all the new episodes that is back in China before I even hit the States. It's kind of like Japan, whatever, in China, Asia, and anyways. In the continent of Asia.
They're very different, Francis. They're very different.
I'm just gonna say that I'm not actually sure. Listen, I'm not sure exactly what country in Asia they actually come from, but anyways, I do watch it at a frequent rate. It's one of my guilty pleasure on YouTube that I spend a lot of time on. Not recently because I've been super busy, but
It's okay. You can watch your anime on the toilet.
Yeah, that's-
Hey, I mean, just say I haven't had time, but yeah, I'm not ashamed of it, man. I mean, that's my.
I
Should
think
I
part
jump
of
in on
it-
this one. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think part of it though is like is it, indirectly my cousin hit it is the lack of shame in what you do.
Facts.
That's what makes a man a man. Like you choose. I mean, I guess in truly being an adult, but especially men, like we don't care no more. Like you hit a
Right.
point where like, yo, I'm gonna fall asleep, you know, in my underwear, watching Netflix by myself. So be it. You know what I mean? It's like whatever you like is what you like, and then you stop thinking about, you know, how the world perceives you. Because at the end of the day, and that's a good, all the way back to what Chunky was saying, like men can identify other men because you know that guy don't give a damn about what you think about him. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
This is who he is. This is what he likes. You know, no matter what you think of it, you know, and that's that.
Yeah, like last episode when I said, you know, I only got one round in me. I'm a heavyweight. I'm a heavyweight fighter. You know, we out here. We not doing multiple rounds. But yeah, I think there is something to that. I mean, I still have like Legos and stuff like that I make things with. I still have kind of a I'll show you. I'll make like sneakers, right, with Legos, right?
Oh, that's
That's
dope.
stuff
You gotta
in,
plug
right?
that.
So, like-
You gotta plug that.
So I got, you know, I try to keep myself creative. So yeah, maybe those are things that maybe one would consider childish, but to me I'm a man. I don't gotta ask nobody. I could go on Lego.com and buy myself $500 worth of Legos if I wanted to.
Yo, those are
You
actually
know?
fire though. Those are actually, I think, because you know a lot of like the famous vloggers and stuff like that. That is a huge component of one of their displays. They have like action
Action figures.
action figures,
Yeah.
Lego, figures, which is kind of cool. I wish I need to tap into that.
D Black, you got any childlike tendencies?
I guess I'm just naturally goofy, which is funny. Well, actually, yeah. So I think goofiness and being silly, probably, or just honestly, just being who I am is probably just gonna be it. Not necessarily like, I mean, there's always like activities like playing video games, whatever. Because my dad hated.
Are you playing
video
game?
hated me playing video games, you know what I mean? But no, but I think just in an overarching sense is like, again, being comfortable being me, and me sometimes can be childish, like I think I hit a point where when I was younger I was like, oh, I have to be a man, that's why I think, again, self-identifying as a man, because I had to be a man. Oh, I got to be serious, I got to be stern, I got to be emotionless, can't feel nothing. But my version of of a man is not giving a damn what you think about me being a man. Like if I like this, if I laugh, if I do whatever, that's just who I am.
Glenn?
Yeah, I mean, definitely to echo everyone else said, I don't think any of those things are childish. If you like anime, if you like cartoons, if you like video games, knowing the fact that you like these things is completely fine. Nothing about that is childish. I think it was like what 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11, once I was a child, I spoke as a child, and I put away childish things. Like none of that stuff is childish. I mean, as long as you ain't out here watching PJ Masks, we're
Playing in
good.
sandboxes.
Someone playing in the sandbox.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're willing to own up that, this is something that I like, there should be no shame. And I think that's an issue that men deal with, is pride and shame. And usually it's people from outside telling us, right? Like, hey, that's what kids do. But in reality, they know damn well they want to sit down and watch some Chowder too.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Like, or Chunky, but Chunky, I gotta say this though.
What's
If
up?
you put on a baby small t-shirt, that's not for men, bro. That's for kids.
I like my size in T2, motherfucker. Like, I don't understand the problem in that.
This man be in the infant aisle looking for his
Mediums.
I'm
Like
shopping at Baby
mediums.
Gap for my damn self.
He's like, I want to
Yes.
struggle to get in it, and I don't want it to come off.
Yeah.
It's
Like, I
getting
think,
tight.
like,
It's
really-
not how big the shirt is, it's how big the arm is how small the shirt is.
Yeah. Like, it seems like the
Whatever,
cowardice
no.
or the childishness is like really attributed to like not being able to speak up for yourself, right? That's something that children do. They were lying when you know damn well that you did something that you weren't supposed to do. That's the childishness that men should not, replicate or covet.
So yeah, took a different turn. No, I was just,
But I mean, like,
I was just
Yeah.
looking at just like the wholesomeness of just doing things that is just enjoyable. Like there's not anything about shame, but it's just like what D Black was saying, like, oh, I'm a man, I have to be serious. I gotta get my briefcase, I gotta wear my suit, I gotta drive my nice car and drive it slow. It's like, nah, man. Like if I want to go 110 on the freeway and be stupid, that's not mature. But it's something that I decide to do. If I want to play in the sandbox with like water and like my little like buckets, I'm definitely gonna do that. And to me, I think it's those things that yes make us who we are. Like I some of you have known me for a long time. I never really cared about people's opinions. I'll wear the tightest Baby Gap t-shirt. I'll eat my ice cream Snickers bar in the middle of the road. Like I don't care about your opinion. I just want to enjoy my life how it stands. And I'm not ashamed of doing those things. I'm not ashamed of being the gross dude and picking my nose and just like flicking the booger, like whatever. Like I could care less, but I think that's
gross. That's kind of nasty, bro. Come on.
I mean, at least I don't eat it anymore, right?
Oh my god!
Like I was in like a serious conversation, and then someone like I was like in a meeting with like people, and then someone said, "Yeah, we do that," and I was like, "Ah," he said "doo doo" out loud in front of everybody, and like that's just me. That's just who I am. So with that being said,
sorry, real quick.
Yeah.
I think one thing that you did hit, and just to tie it into what Selassie was saying, is again, so being a man also, being means that you're not affected by, what people perceive of you and everything like that, but also being aware of what those consequences are. Exactly. You don't get to disregard them. Yeah. You just have to be fully aware that these are the consequences, even whether they just be social or whatever. Ultimately these are the consequences of reality, but I just don't care.
Yeah. It's like it's funny that you said that, because I was just thinking about that.
Yeah. When like you said, like going 100 on the freeway. And you don't care. Yeah. You can go wild.
I mean,
there's a consequence if somebody catches you.
Even in corporate too, like if you like become too playful, then they don't take you serious. They think you're not serious minded. And that could also apply into like promotion and stuff like that too. So there's consequences, that we talk about. So like, yeah.
I mean, that's just, to me, is not being mature. That's still being a boy. When I say tendencies, this is stuff that you do, not as in who you are as an overall aspect. There are little pockets of being a kid that to me is acceptable. Overall, things that matter for core value reasons. Yeah, you can't be a boy when you're yelling being a man, which we go back and say another man recognizes another man by the way they approach things. With that being said, here's another good one. In your opinion, what is a Renaissance man? And if you haven't heard of what a Renaissance man is, I'll let D Black explain it. But if you know what it is, in your opinion, what is it?
And in my opinion, you're gonna say, "Oh my bad." Finish the question, bro.
And do you still think they exist?
You're gonna ask me to define something, and you're gonna ask
no, I'm just saying that people don't know what it is.
Well, it is an actual word though, before you drop Kevin Samuels on that one.
Oh, okay. All right, fine.
I mean, I could start that one off then.
Yeah, go ahead, Selassie.
A Renaissance man by definition is a man that excels at many things. And we do have perfect examples of that today. Possibly J. Cole, if he starts his basketball career, he could definitely excel at that.
Oh God.
Elon Musk, who else? Bill Gates. These are all men that have done great things. Jay-Z, rapping, designer, alcohol,
Kanye West,
everything. Like there's tons of Renaissance men. I think good dads are also Renaissance men as well, because they juggle a lot too. And good parents overall are Renaissance people, but a good dad is also a Renaissance man.
Yeah, and I think you may see it's funny that with your definition, because I know the definition, but I was curious to see if you would put a different spin on it, because it's easy to, because here's the thing. Okay, those, you gave some good examples in there, but like for instance, Elon Musk or whatever, like a lot of those things a lot of people that you mentioned, like affluence and contributing to society and things like that. But then you have Elon Musk, who's a troll and constantly getting in trouble and saying crazy things, and he's super successful, pumping and dumping, buy Dogecoin and Bitcoin.
Facts.
Like is that, for me, would I still consider that a Renaissance man? I don't think so, because
but he's a game changer too, though.
But that's the thing, is it only about being a game changer?
Well,
By
that's the core,
denotative
yeah.
definition, yeah.
That's a core, yeah.
I don't know. I have a completely different definition. I was just like, I'm gonna stand there, I'm gonna shoot a machine gun and read a poem like, "What light beyond windows breaks? You are my boo, and I'm going to fuck you." And that's my thing.
You know, like you said, excelling at many different things.
Yeah, so yeah,
but-
that counts, bro.
No, but then okay, fine. You can excel at many different things. Okay, you have a great basketball player, like you said, J. Cole, great musician, great actor, whatever. But then are there no asterisks to this Renaissance man? Because I feel like the true Renaissance man can't be achievable because there shouldn't be asterisks to that person. There shouldn't be imperfections.
What's
to
an
them.
asterisk then?
An asterisk as in, okay, like for instance, like you said, Elon Musk, like he's contributed all these different technologies to society, but then at the end of the day, he's an asshole. You know, and he's constantly, you know.
I mean, what makes him an asshole?
Yeah,
See,
he's playing into the society,
Hold up.
the setup of the system.
I mean, what makes him an asshole?
Listen, I want to hear
Because he
from,
says asshole things.
I want to hear from Daddy Dre
What?
because I think he got something good to say about this one because I'm out here being a child.
To be a Renaissance man is,
Okay.
I think, very similar to you. You know, someone who, even thinking like Tupac, I think in some ways, right, was to me a Renaissance man, right? He was an actor. He was, he's a poet, right? He wanted to do so. So I think a Renaissance man to me is just simply someone who does a bunch of different things, right? I can, like you said, what did you say? I could have a gun in my hand and
Read a poem.
Yeah, read a poem, and yeah. To me, I think, I think a Renaissance man is.
So just to
someone who-
clarify my point, then,
Yeah.
personality doesn't contribute to what makes a Renaissance man.
How about that definition?
Correct.
Okay, because I feel like for me, personality, mindset, like all those things, like I feel like a Renaissance man carries himself in a different way. He thinks maybe I'm mixing Renaissance man
Oh,
and high
yeah.
value man together.
Yeah.
I think those kind of the output of that mindset is when the actual what they do, right? So
The
because of
product that they bring to the
product
table.
they bring to the table is from the way they think, the way they carry themselves, they're able to produce and output this item to the rest of the. I mean, it doesn't have to, and it's not exclusive to just the famous people, right? You know, we have our day-to-day men who are Renaissance men, you know, who are great role models in the community, you know, great, you know, they're killing it in the corporate space or in the just in the market or in the just in the business space, and are great fathers or mothers. I mean, actually, we're not talking about mothers, sorry. Great fathers. So it's just, you know, you have great plethoras of examples that we can look at from even in our own individual communities who can be examples of that.
Cool.
Yeah.
So,
By default, Glenn, are Jamaican men Renaissance man because of the stereotype of them doing multiple jobs, you know, being able to change the tire, install carpet, and do
Yeah.
every
If they do them exceedingly well, then yes, I myself consider myself a Renaissance. I will make an agenda and I will cook up a mean batch of edibles, no problem, and write a song about it.
Cool. So, if you can pick one myth to dispel about a man, what myth would that be?
And we are without emotion. I'm gonna hop in.
Oh,
We can't have emotion. I know you're calling on people, but I think it just sticks out in my head.
That was very manly of you.
Yes, I asserted myself, inserted myself.
well. I think that goes both ways too. I think in some ways some of the stereotypes of men are not good as well. That always asserting yourself isn't always the right thing to do, right?
That's a good point too.
There is always that. Maybe that's what my thing is, because I would have said emotion if D Black didn't break the rules and assert himself. The Nigerian man he is.
Hey,
Uh,
don't bring that. Don't bring that.
Why? I think that's
Don't
a big
bring
part
it-
of.
don't
I think
do
that's
that.
a big part of.
Don't do that.
Don't do that, sir.
I still will.
Oh,
I
God,
still
please,
will.
oh.
I still
Oh, God,
will. But
oh,
okay.
God, I beg.
But yeah, I think that. Maybe that's the thing is that. That's what I'll say is just because we're being assertive, it doesn't mean that we're confident. Sometimes it's the opposite. So maybe that would be the thing that I'm sometimes the person I'm not calling out D Black here. I want to make that clear.
I'm comfortable with my man.
But sometimes but you guys know when you're out, right? There's always that one guy who's like, I'm ready to fight. I'm ready to do it. Like he's always the one most scared to do anything. Well, no. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
You're waiting for something. You're kind of wanting something to happen, but you know what I'm talking about? Not you, Chunky. I'm talking about just the person who just has this bravado of like, I got to show to you how much of a man I am. Those people. Those are normally the people who are like the weakest. So sometimes to me, always showing whatever that thing is isn't always the manliest thing to do.
So I got two for y'all. One was the one that we talked about in the group chat. It was men can't have female friends. We talked about that.
Oh boy.
Nah, bro. We can sit on this one for a little bit, bro. Nope.
Exactly.
And the second one is men is all about sex. So
I agree with the second one. You definitely taking the L on that first one, bro.
It's a myth.
Man. No, I disagree wholeheartedly. Because the thing is that, you know, like, I don't know. I feel like in genetically how we're built, you know, that's ultimately what we want to do. We want to get with that other person. Man,
you can't control yourself.
I can control myself, absolutely.
At this age, the other thing is just quickly, that's Steve Harvey, I guess, to explain to someone that is an old clip of his. I don't know if he still has that stance, to be honest with you. I think that was like a 10-year-old clip that a lot of people were somehow posting recently. But I'm a man. I can control myself. If a woman kind of flirts with me, I can control myself. I'm at the end of the day responsible for myself. That's being a man. I think if you're tempted by a woman, then that's something you need to look, or maybe you just know. Maybe there are some men who can't have relationships with women because you can't distinguish that. For me personally, I think that's a big part of being a man, especially in like a marriage, right? Being able to control yourself, and at the end of the day, you have control over what you say and you do.
No,
in my head, let me just throw this in there real quick. Because in my head, when Dre said that, like another woman's looking at you, immediately I was like, "You want to go, bro? You want to do this? You want to get fucked up?"
No, let me.
My immediate thought.
No,
let my cousin clarify.
Let me clarify because I'm not saying that you can't have those type of friendships, but for instance, like, okay, now you're in a relationship with another female. Most of the time, like, you can't have no female best friend with your wife. Your wife's probably like, they always tend to like the relationship you have with your females, with your female friends are not the same. Are you gonna say that they're the absolute same when you're married? Y'all still hanging out?
Yeah, I don't do anything. I don't do anything with my men. I don't.
Man.
Yeah, they're all relationships are slightly different, but I'm not having sex with my male friends. So,
but it's not about. And that's the thing. It's not just about being. It's not. Just
I know, but
about
I'm just. Yeah, but I'm just using that as an example. It's like there's things that, you know what I mean. Like I don't know. To me, it's that simple. Like
all I gotta say, I have great, amazing female friends.
Yeah.
I've never dealt with.
while your wife is listening.
No, I mean, she knows the people I'm talking about. So.
I'm just saying that the relationships you have with people of the opposite sex, they are going to change, and that's all I'm trying to get at. When you have a significant other come into your life of that same sex, the other relationship is going to change, you know?
Yeah. But the argument was that men and women can't be friends, and I thought that's what you were saying. Because that's what it sounded like to me.
Oh, I think he's
like
dispelling that. No.
No, and I'm just saying, like,
it was.
I mean, I don't think it's. I don't know. Maybe
did we just have an old man moment where we misheard something and just?
No,
I thought that's what he said.
No,
maybe
that is, and I'm just. I think, like, in the sense of friends, like best friends, hanging out all the time, I don't know. I just feel like your significant other, not because as a man you can't control yourself, but I feel like it's. You know, just like as men, we are as a man, I'm territorial. Like it's not that I don't trust my wife, you know, but if she has a bunch of male friends, I'm going to be uncomfortable with that. If she's hanging with dudes, I'm going to be uncomfortable with that because again, you know, that's just how I am as a man. I feel like women also have some of that territorial piece of them as well. So if you get into, you know, you get married, whatever, and you had a whole bunch of female friends, and your black book, you ain't smashed nobody in your black book. They were all cool with you, whatever. that relationships are going to change. They're going to have to fall back because
but it doesn't say it just say men cannot be friends with
Yeah,
females,
he was
right?
really
So it
clear.
doesn't, like doesn't say best friends, or like it doesn't talk about the intensity of the friendship or how frequent you hang out with them or whatnot. It's just, can you be friends with the opposite sex? So
Yeah, he
and
explicitly said, "I cannot have friends with women." He said, "I cannot be friends with women." And then he explained to her. Then he explained to the woman why he couldn't be friends with her, because I guess she was really attractive, and he's just like, it's always going to be there. Which I
You
thought,
guys
God.
said sex, and that's my summoning word. So I just wanted to drop two real myths real quick. The first thing being like sex does not come easy to men. I think that's the first thing. Like realistically, we can be real selective about who we want to sleep with. We just don't sleep with everyone. And I think another one real quick is that men don't have biological clocks. We do. I think a lot of men know when they want to have kids and when they want to be at a certain age. And that's my only thing.
those are two really good ones.
All right. So I'm gonna hit y'all with this. If you were to have a son, what would you teach him and what would you tell him? D Black.
Life is not fair. Get over it.
Damn.
Because I think that, I feel like more and more in society, we're constantly perpetuating the idea that everything is fair and that everything should be like it's meant to, well, even though it's meant to be fair or the intention is that we're all created equal, but at the end of the day, it's not. And the sooner you grasp that, the sooner you can work around it to make the best of your own world, because life is not fair. You just don't walk around with expecting things, So,
Dre.
I'll answer the question by being for my son, but I think I would probably have similar things if I were to have a daughter. But I don't know if you guys read the book, The 5 Agreements, but I think those are probably the things that I would probably teach my son, right? Be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't make assumptions, always do your best, be skeptical, but learn to listen. I think those are really solid kind of pillars. Try to live my life off that. I'm still very much a work in progress, and I think that's also what I would teach my son as well, like or daughter, to be inclusive. It's about, you're not just going to achieve those things one day, right? These are always going to be things you're going to have to work on and get better on and see where you're slipping and have that self-reflection, or be able to take criticism from your partner or whoever's close to you. So I think those would be the core tenets that I would.
There's gonna be like, here, read this.
Francis.
I mean, it's hard to follow that, Dre. I would say just be true to yourself. Work hard, and family is everything. So that's kind of really where I'll kind of leave it.
Sounds good. Glenn.
I guess it's real quick. I guess on that point, I think it's really important that not just to say it to a son or young men, but just to be be that example that you want them to be. So at least they can always amplify the best of you and hopefully eliminate the worst of you, because we're all not perfect. And but I would say just embrace who you are, align yourself with people that think the way you do, but it's better to have people that motivate you to do better. Be a man of your word, do what you say you're gonna do. And honestly, real men know what they don't know. And I think there's no problem with admitting when you don't know something. A lot of men tend to be prideful and be like, oh, I know everything, but reality, you don't.
I like that one.
So
I like that one a lot.
For me, I would tell my son to hold my cookie and watch this. I'm gonna show you and tell you everything you need to know to be like me. But I implore you to be better than me. And that's the role to me from Father to Son, and to my daughter too. Like I'm like with Jay, like inclusive. Like I want you to be the better version of me possible. There's certain things that I will teach my son that I will not teach my daughter, and it's not to be exclusive, but it's just to me that there's a different realm, different things to teach her. So to finish this out, what one piece of advice would you give boys or young men growing up in the world today? One piece of advice. And I would say Francis.
Wow. I would say definitely find a mentor, because I think, find a positive mentorship in your community that someone you look up to. If us, especially if you don't have it at home. So, and one thing that I will also say is, I think I really like what my cousin said about, life is not fair, work hard, kind of like that mentality. I feel like that's something that we need to instill in our society today, period. Just, work hard and keep pushing through all the adversity that you may face.
Cool. Dre?
I think probably if I had to just pick one thing, I would probably say don't make assumptions, right? I think that's a really key piece of advice, right? Don't assume someone's going to do something for you. Don't assume someone's going to assume that what you're talking about, right? So speak up when you don't understand something. Don't make assumptions, right? I think you should go into things with a open mindset. Someone says something that you think they mean it a certain way, don't assume they meant it that way. Ask them, did you mean it that way, right? Did you mean to be as disrespectful as you were, right? Maybe I misunderstood it, right? And then you can take Chunky's approach after, depending on how they answer.
Calls on them.
Be disrespectful or not. So that would be a big thing for me is, just don't make assumptions. Always give people the benefit of the doubt.
Cool. D-Block?
As you would.
I'm sorry.
That's it.
For me, I know I'll probably give them the same advice I gave my son, but I think ultimately you just have to know yourself. And I think that's the main thing, know yourself and being honest with yourself. And then the second piece of that is I absolutely love, Selasi's statement about, knowing what you don't know. I forgot the name of the guy that originally said that, the astrophysicist that said that. But I think always being open-minded, because at the end of the day, there's a lot of information there's, out there. So you need to be able to take information in, process it, and make the right decisions, but just not being pig-headed and thinking that you know everything. There's always something you don't know, and there's always better. There's always more. So, just be true to yourself, but then continue to understand that you need to continuously improve yourself as well.
Cool. Glenn?
All right, real quick. I would say this is very important for not just other men, but all of society to really recognize the good work that men are doing and constantly doing every day and taking the practice to elevate them so we have these examples. But if I were to sum it up into one sentence, apart from what I would tell my son, this will also be what I would tell my son, but basically read these 5 books. Abolition of Man by C.S. Lewis, Richest Man in Babylon by George Samuel Clayson, the Malcolm X autobiography, any book by Barack Obama, the Bible, and Between the World and Me by Ta-Nehisi Coates. I think those will all be very good. You don't have to read them in any particular order. I think it's very important that every boy, man, or every man today read those books to get a good understanding of men that have gone through trials, what to do as a man, how to prioritize certain things. And I think those are just very good examples of manhood.
Cool. For me, I echo what everybody said, because I ain't teaching any of y'all young boys the same thing I'll teach my son. Straight up. My son's going to have the utmost advantage. Not because I don't like you other kids, but honestly, everything that everyone said hits a valid point. And I'm not going to add to it because there's nothing to add to, because it was amazing. So with that being said, for more content or to learn what our next topic will be about, please check us out at JJC Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Podcast episodes drop every Wednesday. Stay tuned for the outro coming up right after this to learn additional ways to reach out to us and send us your feedback. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. You know what? I ain't even got to say it. You guys know what to do?
Peace.
And that concludes today's episode, but that doesn't mean the conversation has to end. As a matter of fact, feel free to check us out at JJC Podcast on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter for our post-discussion question following the release of this episode. If you are a Black or minority business owner or professional that would like to be featured on the Rep Yours segment of our show, or a listener with some general feedback for the podcast panel, feel free to shoot us an email at jjcpod@gmail.com. As always, likes and comments are always appreciated. Be sure to subscribe or follow to be notified when the next episode releases. And until then, stay safe, stay blessed. Peace.